Hello again. Welcome back to the Movie Buff Reactions channel. Today we're going to be doing another fresh, unusual suspect reaction. This is his I watched the Ghostbuster Knockoffs video, and at first I wasn't sure if he was going to include like movies such as Ghost Dad or Ghost Fever, but then he specified he was only going to be looking at the foreign Ghostbuster knockoffs, because foreign countries making rip-offs of American films has always been popular, going back to the 1980s with Bruno Mattei. And I'm interested to see this because I know of a lot of films that were trying to cash in on the Ghostbusters craze, but as far as specific knockoffs, I can't think of anything too on the nose, so without further ado, let's jump in and see what these foreign Ghostbuster knockoffs are.
You know Harold Ramis once dodged the Vietnam draft by taking literal meth right before his physical? And that Bill Murray once hired a deaf assistant who only spoke sign language during the filming of Groundhog Day to make communication between him and the producers as awkward as possible.
Sounds like Murray.
Freud is a UFO nutjob who literally believes in the supernatural and sells skull-shaped bottles of vodka that
I've had that.
£1,000 a litre.
I believe I'll pass.
Look, all I'm saying is that these men don't sound like they were ever the easiest to work with. But you put them together, they're the goddamn fucking Ghostbusters. Yeah, Ghostbusters is one of those movies that, if you haven't seen, people will look at you weird. This supernatural comedy from 1984 has got to be the most influential movie of that decade. The chemistry between the cast is god tier, the soundtrack is burned in our brains, the set pieces are funny, creative, and full of character. It's a certified classic. What can I say that hasn't already been said? But with that status, of course, comes imitators. And whilst American copyright laws meant that Ghostbusters knockoffs weren't ever going to grace silver screens stateside, the rest of the world stood proud on their foreign lands and claimed, "You have no power here." And then they
almost sounds appealing.
Ghostbusters movies
with blackjack and hookers.
Oh, and me using that Futurama clip there? Not a joke. So let's turn a blind eye on the small matter of blatant copyright infringement and see if any of these films hold any promise. Let's go. Okay, up first, let's take a look at an Indonesian take on Ghostbusters.
Ooh.
Ghost Busa, Misteri Desa Penari, or in English, Mystery of the Dancer Village. This one premiered in 2020 on Disney Plus Hotstar, which is Disney Plus but catered for markets in Southeast Asia. Now the film centres around our main character, Sigit, who for some unexplained reason has the ability to see ghosts, aka Haley Joel Osment syndrome.
More M. Night Shyamalan.
And one day he witnesses a woman named Ningsi killed in a hit-and-run incident. And due to Sigit's ability to communicate with her and Ningsi's ability to communicate with other ghosts, the two make a pact. If Ningsi helps Sigit with his new business, Sigit will help track down the person who killed her. Interesting premise. Though you'll quickly notice that despite the inclusion of the suit, the name tags, and the car, the movie is less Ghostbusters, more Ghost Whisperer, as it's less about catching ghosts, more about communicating and reasoning with them. But no worries.
That's kind of boring.
The movie is good. Oh wait, yeah, then there is a problem. The movie is, not good.
It stinks.
I mean, it's pretty simple. The main issue with the film is that it's a comedy, and it's
gotta look sexy.
Funny. The script really is dire in this. Like, one thing they do a lot is having a translation chain. So the ghost can only communicate with Ningsi, Ningsi can only communicate with Sigit, and then Sigit needs to translate for his fellow Ghostbusters. And if that sounded long and boring to you, it's because it is. And yet they keep showing them doing this. Again.
Iya juga sih, Mbak.
Ya, iya juga sih, Mas.
Iya juga sih, Mas.
And again.
Mati bunuh diri. Diputusin pacar.
Well, what do you expect?
Putusin pacarnya, bunuh diri dia.
And again.
Keluarga Hartanto mengucapin terima kasih. Terus sekarang mereka mau pamit pergi.
Keluarga Hartanto.
And every Indonesian simultaneously cancels their Disney Plus subscription.
Bye!
And the other jokes don't.
These days, all of you might.
There's a bizarre fat-shaming bit thrown in here. Many scenes have zero punchlines and come across more as poor ad-libbing. And what few jokes that do work are ruined by how they go about delivering them.
Kind of like Ernest Scared Stupid.
Kita nggak bisa masuk. Pak, kenapa? Kenapa?
Digembok.
Digembok.
Yeah, like on paper, that's actually a funny joke, but the need to translate again there completely ruined the timing. Like, here's how a scene like this should be done. Okay, open the door.
Ah, Bob.
I can't open the door. Why? It's locked. Oh, it's okay though. I have a key. Oh, yeah, no problem then. Yeah. Shame this key's for another door. Oh, for God's sake! So yeah, the comedy is bad, which is made worse as there's more product placement in this movie than there are good jokes. For what product, you may ask?
Kita lagi ini bang, persiapan buat lomba PUBG nasional.
PUBG.
Masih juara PUBG.
Oh,
Never heard of
awesome.
it.
Can't wait to play a third-person shooter with a flat touchscreen. I didn't like my hand ligaments anyway. Okay, so the bad jokes aside, I have to say, some parts of the film do verge on being effective. Like this scene where Ningxi sits down and contemplates her purpose in life. Or death, should I say. Oh, and kind of an interesting choice here, as Ningxi can change her appearance to be either her younger self or how she looked when she died. So when she's older, it's a nice visual cue she's feeling down.
Huh.
It's an interesting idea that I don't think I've ever seen before. And this scene, believe it or not, I found to be quite touching.
Sometimes there's a good moment in a bad barrel.
Kita di sini. Semoga
I'm a little tired.
All
Bad
the guys come
analogy.
together and console her. Man, this is actually quite a moving moment. It's just a shame that they choose to end the scene like this.
Ya kalau nggak sempet di Ghostbusters 1 ini, mungkin nanti di Ghostbusters 2. Soalnya kata produser.
You ruin it.
Yang kedua.
Kok tahu?
Yeah, the one moment in the film that actually worked, and they ruined it with a goddamn fourth wall break. You fucked it up! You fucked it
Big
up! So
Lebowski.
you might be wondering, well, what about the ghost busting stuff? Where's the PKE meters and the ghost traps and the proton packs? Well, they are straight up
Non-existent.
yeah, despite the name of the bloody movie, they don't do any ghost busting at all. Hell, they even refer to themselves as, get this, the non-violent Ghostbusters.
Hello, pusing setan.
Was their goal to make this as
Yeah, so this is
just
stupid.
unappealing as
And also,
possible?
kind of hypocritical in a movie like this, as Ghost Booster is actually very violent. Yeah, I mean, the literal opening shots of this movie are of a mother and daughter getting violently stabbed to death. I mean, I can't even show you how bloody this is. Unless you support me on Patreon, then I don't need to worry about that. Thank you, guys. And then there's
Perks of being a supporter.
Comic relief ghost characters reveal how they died. Like, okay, maybe they did something stupid like lighting their cigarette in a petrol station, or maybe they got flattened by a steamroller or something. Yeah, for most of you guys, I had to censor that. They both slit their own wrists. And it's a full
I can understand that.
Blood and everything. And look, this is supposed to be a comedic scene as well. Just look how Ningxi reacts when she finds out how they died. What's funny about that? That's freaking horrible.
Did Tommy Wiseau write this?
It's so bizarre. The tone is all over the place. Scenes which should be serious are funny, and scenes which should be funny are serious. Case in point, this scene.
They're ripping off Harry Potter now?
Yeah, they're referencing the Tom Riddle diary in Chamber of Secrets. Now, as soon as I saw this, I actually got excited. So much potential for comedy gold here. Like maybe the ghost begins screwing with him and they get into a petty argument on the pages or something. And it initially looks like this is what they were going for. But then, what did they actually do?
Just straight up steal.
Yeah, they play it stone cold serious. He heads back in
Bit of
time
an unevenness
to find out
here.
how the ghosts that are haunting the house died. You're parodying a scene and you forgot to, you know, parody it. So it ends up not being a parody. It's just a rip-off. I need to remind you that you're already ripping off another movie as it is. I mean,
Bruno Mattei didn't stop in one movie.
The cast are decent. I actually think they work quite well together. Even if one of the characters is, well, I wouldn't call his portrayal of a gay man subtle in any way. He kind of looks like Keegan-Michael Key's gay Indonesian cousin.
He looks like a bald
That's
Fred
the sentence that's never
Armisen to
been uttered
me.
in the history of humanity. But honestly, he's not that bad. And whilst 90% of the jokes miss, some jokes verge on being funny.
What's up with this kid?
Kopi? Susu?
Yeah.
Semuanya nggak ada di sini.
Wait, is that a
The
dwarf?
kid has better comedic timing than the adults do. And the makeup team deserves praise. I mean, some of the ghost effects here are Evil Dead level good. But it all culminates in a turd of a climax, where they go to a job where it turns out a family was killed by a property landlord after they wouldn't sell them their house. And do you remember how Sigurd promised to find Ningsi's killer earlier? Well,
Doesn't
that
happen.
plotline gets abandoned very quickly. However,
Kamu yang nabrak ibu-ibu malam-malam itu kan, saya ingat mobilnya.
yeah, turns out her killer just so happened to be the same guy who killed this family.
Ooh, how convenient.
Look, I realize this
I love
probably
the
had next
Simpsons
to no
clips.
budget. I mean, you can tell that by its average cinematography and its over-reliance on stock music. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. So it gets a pass for that, but still, it's a comedy that's just not funny. For that very simple reason, don't watch this. And whatever you do, heed that same advice for the Japanese Ghostbusters.
Ooh.
Because their take on it is a great, big, steaming pile of... I mean, seriously, ask yourself
George of the
right
Jungle.
now what age and gender you think the Japanese Ghostbusters are, and what setting you suspect they're in. And are you correct? Yes, of course you are.
Surprise, surprise.
Yep, in 1995,
Oh, brother.
Japan, of course, got high school Ghostbusters. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't this just a JAV? Well, yes. But actually, no. That would imply they have sex in this. But it's all faked sex, like an actual movie. So this is a movie. That being said, the ghosts in this are just straight up dick monsters.
Challenging wank.
Whoa!
So yeah, this is a trashy Japanese
Very
action
Cronenberg.
video with no sex. Who the flying fuck is this movie for? Alright, well, let's take a look at the plot at least. Our Ghostbusters this time are Kyoko, Mayu, and Emmy, who have themselves a little paranormal club at their school. As
Leave
they
it to
task their
Japan.
teacher to investigate a strange phenomenon, where all the female students suddenly become sex mad.
Alright.
Turns out
It
that
is
they're being possessed
Cronenberg.
by deceased
Shivers.
perverts.
No, not alright.
この世で性の欲望を人一倍持ちながらも未練たらたらで死んでいった場合に
Well, you learn something every day. I just hope for the sake of humanity that's not why the ghosts exist in the original film.
He slimed me.
Yeah.
You know, come to think of it, the ghosts all being blue-balled actually explains a surprising amount.
Bustin' makes me feel good.
Oh, and if
Well,
you
yeah.
wonder why these perverts decide to possess girls' bodies to only then proceed to have sex with male students, good question.
Many layers
I guess
there.
They were all gay perverts. I mean, this is almost
Or
staple with the
bisexual.
Ghostbusters rip-off, with the PKE meter, which looks more like an oversized lightsaber, to the proton pack equivalents, which are actually vacuum
Ugh.
cleaners in this.
That is an awful effect.
Yeah, using vacuum cleaners as ghost-catching devices. I know what a lot of you are thinking right now.
I was thinking Casper.
You You know, interestingly, this movie actually predates Luigi's Mansion. Lord, I pray this film wasn't the inspiration for a Nintendo classic. I really can't think of anything positive to say about this movie. The VFX is terrible. It's not funny or interesting. There's a weird angle they try to pull with one of the Ghostbusters trying to contact a dead grandmother, which feels really tacked on. I mean, you'd be insane to watch past the first scene in this movie. I mean, seriously, I've never been so confused by a film so quickly. Just watch.
The fuck?
Oh, God. Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. First off, this is the happiest anyone's ever looked when talking themselves.
I want to die.
Secondly, jumping off a 3-story building should take like a second to reach the bottom. It took her 6. Thirdly, what kind of soundtrack is this? A scene like this should be silent or have very somber music playing. A happy little diddle on the piano.
Reminds me of a Mystery Science Theater movie.
Just feels wrong. Fourthly, could you really not get the actress to, like, fall onto the ground, like, a little bit? If you can't film her landing, just cut to black or have her jump off camera. And lastly, you completely screwed up that cut at the end.
Awful.
Yeah, so that seems to be a poor attempt at a match cut. It's when you cut between 2 different scenes where there's some sort of similar action that bridges the transition.
Good cut.
So to see an attempt at a match cut in a film like this is quite surprising. But guys, you know you're supposed to cut on the action, right? It should be cut mid-jump. That way the action has some sort of continuation between the shots. But it doesn't do this. It cuts after she's hit the ground. So the edit is really jarring. Jesus, you could create an hour-long video essay dissecting how weird this one scene is.
Maybe
Which
somebody
is really
will.
saying something, considering the kind of messed up shit this movie goes on to show us. Yeah, I haven't even talked about the dick monsters in this. And the reason for
Those
that
with testicles.
well, I can't. But long story short,
Limitations of YouTube.
understatement of the century, I know. But really, this is one of the most baffling projects I've ever seen. It's too weird to appeal to people with normal taste, and too tame to appeal to people with fucked up taste. If you want to see Japanese Ghostbusters, either watch the
There's an oxymoron.
Japanese dubbing, or maybe check out this J-pop cover they did when the 2016 film came out. This is a million times better. But at least put it this way, the 2016 Ghostbusters is now no longer the worst one. That's saying something. Okay, well the Japanese knockoff wasn't any good. What about a Hong Kong one? Because I went onto the internet and I found this. A 1994 Hong Kong production called The Chinese Ghostbuster. Okay.
Not even trying to be
What's this
original.
movie about? Well, it's about 2 ghosts from the underworld. Zhonghui and his sister Ame. And Ame has her sights set on a human from the real world, who she wishes to marry, but also whose life is in danger. So, the 2 head to the surface to track him down. But as it turns out, the man in question, named Simon, is a cash-strapped male gigolo who loses often at blackjack.
Blackjack and
Asia is such a
So
pervy
not
continent.
exactly an upstanding citizen, and he has 0 feelings for Ame to boot. But she takes the I can fix him approach as the film becomes a desperate race to convince him to marry her, all while facing off against a fellow villain from the underworld who wishes to see Simon dead. Okay. But what's this got to do with Ghostbusters?
Absolutely nothing.
Yes, I got spoiled.
Misleading title.
Indeed, this movie is called The Chinese Ghostbuster, but the only actual self-proclaimed Ghostbuster in this is Lan Xingying over here.
What? Solon!
And he's not exactly a main character in this. I think what happened here is that Zhonghui, this character, is based on a Chinese mythological figure by the same name, who is best known as a vanquisher of ghosts. This guy is like the OG Ghostbuster. So when it came to translating the film for English audiences, whoever was in charge must have been like, aha, we can rope people into watching this by calling it Ghostbusters. They took
Brilliant.
the liberty of bullshitting us.
You lied to me.
Wasn't lying.
That's how
It was
rip-offs
just
work.
Bullshit.
So yeah, it's pretty dated, it has nothing to do with Ghostbusters, nobody on the planet is talking about this movie, it's no doubt a pile of shit, right? Well...
So just move along.
Yeah, I mean, not to get your hopes up or anything. It is choppy, even sometimes confusing. But there is some stuff in here that I actually really liked and was quite pleasantly surprised by. First off, I like the premise. The idea of a ghost wanting to marry someone, and for that someone to be scared shitless when he finds out she's dead. That's a great idea for a supernatural comedy. Has that been done? I might be forgetting something, and let me know in the comments if I've been stupid.
I can't think of any.
Don't quite take full advantage of this premise. There are some pretty funny moments, like this line has aged wonderfully.
你知不知道，我住的地方从来没有人敢说爱字。
你从哪儿来的？
You know, given Hong Kong's and China's relationship today, that's actually pretty funny. Yeah, when this movie goes for your funny bone, it can really hit. Like, check this scene out where Quay finds out Simon is a gigolo and he's arguing with his sister about it. And keep watching, because it leads to a pretty funny payoff.
跟女人睡觉尽为直觉吗？
你不救他就是害了我啊！
哎，害你也好，没害你也好，我已经决定了，我回去了。
我也决定了，我不回去，你自己回去。
你一定要下去。
Okay, that's well executed.
That's great physical comedy. And keep watching.
哥，这次再嫁不出去，我一世都不嫁了。
啊？哎，阿妹啊，我这么做也是为了你好啊。那你决定了怎么做呢？
That is brilliant. That brief moment when you're like, wait, why didn't he fall this time? And then it cuts to his forward-thinking assistant.
Clever.
Mwah, chef's kiss. Brilliant. It is unfortunate though, as this level of comedy doesn't last the movie, which is a shame, because this is easily the film at its best. But the action scenes are also well done. I mean, we have some Hong Kong veterans here, like Wu Ma and Lan Qingyin, and they let their creative muscles fly here.
I can dig it.
That is so stupid. I love it. I mean, it is wonderfully over the top, albeit let down by the rough picture quality. Yeah, it's a very obscure movie that's never been given the remastered treatment. Which
That just adds the
so
charm.
nice. Add into the equation the shoddy translation, which more often than not has spelling and grammatical errors. Yeah, it's probably not worth watching this until it gets properly remastered. Some of the subtitles I couldn't even read.
I can get with it.
Drop shadows are your friend. And the film has other issues, like some confusing editing and directing choices. And then there's the lacking soundtrack, which honestly sometimes sounds more like a video game one than it does a movie.
And I thought the first movie's soundtrack was weird.
And the ending, which honestly isn't an ending. They defeat the villain, they get married in a ceremony the priest from Spaceballs would find too fast. And that's it. Freeze frame, play the credits.
So is this technically necrophilia?
Thanks for giving us your money, Hong Kong. Now, piss off home.
We are so glad you came.
Bye-bye. Oh, can you imagine if the original Ghostbusters ended this abruptly?
I order you to cease any and all supernatural activity and return forthwith to your place of origin or to the nearest convenient parallel dimension. That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
Oh, brother.
What? Goes and listened. It went back home. Movie's over. What more do you want? Yeah, it's really bad. And it's such a shame, because there's glimpses of greatness here. And it made me think that with all the American remakes out there, this movie is prime real estate for a Hollywood version. I love the concept here. Please, someone out there give this premise the attention it deserves, because the good stuff here is really good. Alright, but what about Bollywood? Have they...
Oh, of course there's Bollywood versions.
Well, yeah, quite recently actually, because in 2022, Indian cinemas were graced with phone booths. Phone booths. Okay, it sounds weird in English. Boot is Hindi for ghost. Okay, so only 2 Ghostbusters this time. This is Major, and this is Gulu. And after an electrocution gives them the ability to see ghosts. Just go with it. They quickly meet one called
Mimes,
Ragini, who they make a pact with. Ragini will help them make money as Ghostbusters if they help her take down the one that caused her death. So yeah, if that sounds familiar, it's 'cause it is. It hits pretty much all the same beats as the Indonesian Ghostbusters, which actually came out a year before this one. Our protagonists are able to see the dead. The female lead is a ghost that
are they
died
ripping
in a
off the
car
ripoff?
accident. She seeks revenge on those that killed her, and in return she'll help our leads with their ghostbusting business. Good lord, it's a rip-off of a rip-off!
Yeah!
Something you don't see every day.
It's even similar in their tones, as both are comedies and both are more about ghost salvation than they are ghost busting, despite them literally calling themselves Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
Hey, you need a PKE meter, a ghost trap, and a proton pack if you want to be called that, and you two have none of those. Okay, but let's distance ourselves from that. Is the movie any good? Well, believe it or not, I actually think this movie is pretty damn bad, actually.
Have me going there.
It's not good. Yeah, I really wanted to like this one. I mean, the production of this is light years ahead of the other movies I've talked about, but it weirdly has the same issue as the Indonesian one as well. Sorry to sound like a broke record, but it's a comedy, and it's just not funny. Mostly. Yeah, I give the edge to Phone Boots over Ghostbooster, as this one actually did make me laugh. On rare occasions.
2 funny minutes and a 90-minute dreck, as my grandfather would say.
That's good. The timing there was perfect. I noticed a little joke thrown in there where he zips up his suit, only to zip it down again so he has a little bit more chest on show. Because that's funny. And
Gotta
it
show off the
actually
man
made a
cleavage.
fun joke during the intermission of all moments.
मिलते हैं ब्रेक के बाद evil laughter.
वो नहीं पढ़ना था.
Sorry.
But don't let this fool you. The vast majority of the comedy in this is just weird. Like, check this scene now. The two are driving down a road and they hit a ghost, believing her to be an alive woman. They notice her legs are back to front, so they try to rotate them back into place. And yeah, them doing this isn't the weird part. It's this bizarre joke.
Houston, we just heard a woman scream. Is everything alright?
Yeah, they get really desperate for a laugh in this. If that was so loud the International Space Station could hear it, I think the entire surrounding city would have exploded. Though I think the reason a lot of the jokes don't work for me is because I'm not Indian. Yeah, there's a lot of references they make in this that I just didn't get. Like,
The cultural shift can play a part.
Convince the guys to help her.
Still gotta make him look hot.
Yeah, so unless you watch a lot of Indian television, you're probably a little confused right now, as this is a reference to a series of commercials this very actress Katrina Kaif does, where she basically pretends these bottles of mango juice are a penis. I mean, there's no getting around this subtext. There's one which starts with the bottle literally between a man's legs.
There's a commercial for the ages. Ugh.
Look, I realize sex sells, but
You think Dan Schneider was over the top?
They also do another actor reference later on in the movie. Major and Gulu have just stolen the villain's staff, and they can't get it working. And that's when the villain randomly decides to do this.
Is he gonna dance? Well, it's Bollywood. What do you expect?
Okay, so this is an Indian reference to something. So allow me to make a British reference to counteract. Can someone call Craig David? Because I need someone to fill me in. Okay, so apparently this is a reference to a 1983 film called Hero, where this same actor, Jackie Schroff, performed this same flute melody.
It's not a bad tune.
Okay, so we're done now with references only Indians will understand, right?
I have no idea who this is.
Okay,
The
so
Flash.
I found out that this guy is actor Rajinikanth. And from what I understand, he's a bit of a legend in Tamil cinema. He has a major cult following. And many of you might recognize him as Entharan. Yeah, those crazy scenes that surface on the internet where this robot dude transforms into many shapes and sizes. Same guy. Forgot to mention actually that he cameoed in Ra 1 as well. So yeah, the film is chock-a-block full of references like this. So if you're not overly familiar with Indian cinema, you might end up sat there like, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. But
Totally be me.
Comedy is bad. But it's difficult to chastise the bad jokes, because they might very well be referencing something I don't know. Like, this bit comes out of left field.
I hate that
Is
kind of
a
editing.
reference, or did the editor just have a seizure? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so the jokes aside, we gotta talk about the song and dance numbers. It is Bollywood after all, and they're okay. The dancing is fun, the beats are head bopping, but I honestly can't remember any tune.
I don't get why the fucking Indians love fucking songs
The whole film
so
is
much.
vibrant and colourful, cool sets, great costumes. The production is fab. And it also adheres well to the show don't tell rule. When Ragini talks about her past, for instance, it actually shows it, instead of her just telling us. So there's a clear attempt to make the film visually interesting. Also, I like the cast. They work very well together. Siddharth Chaturvedi and Ishan Katur work well together. And Katrina Kaif plays a confident, no-nonsense ghost that keeps these two bozos in check. It's a dynamic
Love the
that
skull
works,
hand.
and the actors are giving it their all. It's just a shame that they're let down by the script they're given. And then there's that bloated runtime, which, I know, it's Indian cinema, longer runtimes are more of a thing there, but come on, a comedy movie should be like an hour and a half, not over 2, especially in one that's just not that funny. And
Well, Scorsese was directing. It might work. Which character is that?
You know what? I've changed my mind. I think I prefer not getting the references. If you're a huge Bollywood fan and are able to pick up on all the references, you might enjoy this more than I did. But even then, know that the critical response to this was pretty lackluster. And then there's how they end the film. Yeah, they
Mel Brooks, these
in a film
motherfuckers
that ended
ain't.
up bombing hard at the box office.
Now that is irony.
Ugh. I mean, I know this video is about Ghostbusters knockoffs, but I was hoping for something a bit better by now. Tell you what, let's sidestep a bit for our final movie. Instead of talking about a knockoff, what about...
Fan film?
a fan film? Yeah, we're going to Italy with this one, with Real, a Ghostbusters tale. And it tells the story of these guys, Davide, Ludovico, and Simone. They're 3 science majors who decide to bond together to get themselves an unexpectedly affordable apartment. And why was it so cheap? That would explain it. But no worries, they happen to be in touch with Egon. Yeah, Spengler himself, who now apparently works at CERN and speaks Italian.
Oh, that's just low.
Okay, I'll roll with it. So yeah, he decides to send these guys the equipment they used in their ghostly encounters to help this Italian trio
Exorcise the demons.
And as they do, they discover the spirits of an evil alchemist who wishes to break free of his prison and leave
You know, it is
Rome
fitting that Italy would do a
So,
rip-off, because they're like the
knockoffs
ultimate
weren't
rip-off
This
country.
is a full-on fan film. This is a clear labour of love by Ghostbusters fans. And if you're wondering, why did I single out this particular fan film? Because there's loads of Ghostbusters fan projects out there. Hell, there's even another Italian one. Well, this one, I'd say,
Of course there is.
teetering on the edge of being more of an independent production. The IMDb page for this says it had a budget of €75,000, which is pretty cheap for a feature-length movie. But for a free-to-watch fan film that was never going to make a penny of its money back, that's actually pretty sizable. So I decided to check it out, and you'll be pleased to know this is the best movie I'm talking about today. It's not perfect, but for a film with a budget nowhere close to say what Phone Boot had, it's not bad at all. What I initially noticed when watching this was how impressive the VFX is. It's clear where most of the budget went, and it went to good use. The ghosts look fantastic. I mean, at times, the film is indistinguishable from a
props.
production. Though it is unfortunate,
did what they could.
The effects came at the expense of the Ecto 1. Yeah, there's no Ghostbusters car in this. And if you're wondering, well, how did they get around
Gotta make tough decisions.
Well, that's depressing. At least they're eco-friendly Ghostbusters. The Not Just Spikes guy would love these three. But how are the Ghostbusters themselves? Well, they work pretty well together, I think. I mean, they don't quite have the top-tier chemistry of Murray, Aykroyd, and Ramis, but they do offer a similar sort of dynamic between them. And whilst it doesn't always work, there's moments of brilliance here. I mean, that right there is the Ghostbusters vibe. Good stuff. And there's a line in the climax regarding a broken tablet that actually made me laugh out loud. Full on credit for that. Now, there are problems. Don't want to be too harsh here. It is a non-profit labour of love, but still, the film could have really benefited from a little more show and less tell. There's a lot of talking and a lot of explanation of the film's plot, and it does drag the film down.
Risky.
I mean, you can only be so interested in the villain's backstory when it's delivered to you by a guy reading it from a webpage on his laptop. Oh, and get used to seeing this room, by the way. They spend a lot of time in it. You know, I was hoping when I watched Italy's version of Ghostbusters, I could get to see, you know, Italy. But still, the film redeems itself with the climax, as they face off against the villainous alchemist in a final showdown. They're outmatched, and things are looking grim. That's until we get this.
Non siamo marines! No! Siamo acchiappafantasmi!
Oh, that is a dope line. Hey, if they rush into battle right now to the Ghostbusters,
I can feel the passion.
This would be the icing on the cake.
Sotto!
Fuck yeah!
Wolf of Wall Street.
So yeah, the film ends on a high, which is so important to me. A good ending could save a movie. Now, if you do decide to watch this...
True.
do
Primal
save your
Fear's a good one.
expectations. It is a fan film. It's not the most polished in terms of plot or production. A lot of jokes don't work, and it does drag in places. But it's a fun passion project that clearly a lot of love went into. And as of now, it's only got about 50,000 views on YouTube, where other lower budget fan films have millions. Yeah, it's weird that the Ghostbusters fan film, with clearly the most effort put into it, is one barely anyone knows about. So, if you love Ghostbusters and want to check out a good fan project, this is definitely your go-to. I'll link it in the description if you want to check it out. Okay, that's it for today, and if you're watching this, that must mean you might...
There's my name.
You'll have noticed that in this Patreon version of the upload, I didn't have to do as much censoring as I did with the YouTube version, so that's one additional perk I can give you guys.
Good perk.
And allow me to thank my top tier patrons by name, and their names are Ryan Massey, Chef Matt Reviews, Dr. 10, Mark Tonner, Gregorio Vasquez, Max Stahl, Goldsbro TSG, Jake, Ewan Hurst, Jacob Matthew Crawford, Christian Lishka, and Stevadu Sujiputra. Much love to you guys. Thank you ever so much for the support. Thanks again for watching, guys. See you in the next one.
See you as well, my man. So that was the Unusual Suspects Ghostbusters knockoff video, and that was a lot of fun, just like the foreign superheroes video he did a couple months ago. I'm not as familiar with foreign cinema as I am with American and, to a lesser extent, English cinema, but, you know, you can call me uncultured if you will. Just, it's hard to get into movies with the language barrier, but there are some foreign films I've gotten into over the years, like the Spanish version of Dracula from the 1930s, and this was cool. Definitely definitely hard to find. It seems like he had a hard time to find a lot of ones that were enjoyable. But from the very beginning, the trivia about how difficult these the original motherfuckers could be. Harold Ramis, I did not know about the draft dodging. That'll make him a hit or miss with some people. Bill Murray, of course, he's got the reputation for being a difficult son of a bitch to work with. And Dan Aykroyd, yeah, he's a supernatural UFO-believing nut-ass. I think he'd get along great with director Richard Stanley, and yeah, the Skull Vodka. I've actually had that, and I still have the I got like a tiny version of it, and I still have the bottle to this day, just because it's a fun thing to have. As for the versions that he highlighted here, the Indonesia version goes Booser, which just sounds like a bad fart joke almost. The orange suits, those look cool. The premise, it sounds like there's a little possible potential, but doesn't really go anywhere. Just sounds like it doesn't leave a lot of room for much excitement. Interesting that, yeah, there's some shocking violence that you wouldn't expect. It just makes the tone uneven. It was cool to see the Bob, the drug dealer character that Ross John Fernley also plays, appear. All of us fans love seeing that character pop up, and the key bit was funny. And yeah, the Harry Potter ripoff scene, I'm like, when I saw what they were doing, I'm like, good fucking grief. Just like, and I kept mentioning Bruno Mattei, who, for those who don't know, he was a legendary exploitation filmmaker, born and based in Italy, and he had a habit of ripping off popular American movies. One of them, best examples, would be Strike Commando from 1987 with Reb Brown, which is mostly a ripoff of Rambo First Blood Part 2, but also has a weird out-of-nowhere scene that specifically rips off Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And the Japanese Ghostbusters, the high school Ghostbusters, of course it's Japan that decides to go extremely pervy with their ripoff. And of course it's in high school, because why would they not? And let's see here, the Dick Monsters, I didn't spot, maybe it's because I wasn't leaning in close enough, but I didn't get the too great of a look at them, but yeah, that, I kept mentioning David Cronenberg and the part about the schoolgirls being made sex maniacs. It kind of reminds me of David Cronenberg's first big film, Shivers, which is pretty much about, it's like a zombie film, but instead of eating flesh, people are driven to have sex or pretty much rape other people. And the vacuum cleaner bit, that reminded me of Casper, when Bill Pullman, I believe, sucked up the ghostly trio. The Hong Kong version, the Chinese Ghostbuster, which is only a few steps above when a porn parody just uses the original film's title with a XXX parody. The ghost human love angle, that's interesting. Yeah, I agree, that's kind of an original idea that could have potential. The title's very misleading, but interesting idea. The human stool bit is funny, and I agree, that drum action scene, jumping on the drums, that looked like a fucking blast, and the ending being very abrupt. I almost expected to hear the with The Nightmare Becomes Reality from Nightmare City. If you're a cinema snob fan as well, you might get some of these obscure references I'm doing. It's late. I can't help it or be completely composed. But yeah, it looks like there's a lot of potential. The running theme here is these movies seem to have a lot of potential, but doesn't really jump on them, which I've seen happen with a lot of horror movies, horror comedies. And the Bollywood version, Phone Boot, looks like the typical Bollywood flair. Very long, A lot of music, a lot of over-the-top shenanigans. And yeah, it is funny that it appears to be a ripoff of the Indonesia ripoff. He said there's a few really funny moments, which another thing that keeps to be appearing in these movies. And it reminds me of something my grandfather said. Like, you get a really bad comedy that's like 2 hours, but they have like 2 minutes of laugh out loud moments, which doesn't really, does not redeem it, but shows that it could have maybe worked. I did like the random flute bit. Like, it's random, but it sounds nice. And as for the Italian film, the fan film, weirdly enough, the Italian one is the least over the top, just because I've seen enough of, again, Italian knockoffs to know that those motherfuckers just go balls to the walls insane. And it's interesting. I'm not sure if I'd get into it 100%, but I agree. You can definitely feel the passion. As always, as he mentioned, the copyright shit can be very, shady, but you can definitely feel, as he said, the labor of love. And it's a shame that he only did the foreign films, because it would have been interesting to see him maybe tackle this other notable fan film, Freddy versus Ghostbusters, where, as you might guess, it has Freddy Krueger going against the goddamn Ghostbusters. Of course, there's also the a good example that fan films can have strong appeal. There's that Raiders of the Lost Ark remake that a bunch of high school kids made in the 80s that is still very admired to this day, and it's very fucking late when I'm recording this, and I'm not sure I was at my best, but The Usual Suspect posts a new video. I don't even ask questions. I just try to react. There's been a few times where I was too tired to do it, but not this time, and I'm a little tired, but not that fucking tired, and hope you enjoyed the reaction. I'm gonna shut the fuck up now before I ramble on for another 20 minutes, and I will see you again, hopefully soon.